Hey guys, welcome to your second video tutorial. Today we're going to be learning about user input. So in the last lesson we talked about displaying things to the console with the computer using system.out.println. So if we just run this default code, the computer should give you hello world, right? And we learned that in here we can also do basic operations like 1 plus 1 and it'll give you 2. Yep. So what we want to do today is to have the computer get user input, right? So have the user type in something and then have the computer do something with it. So the very first thing we have to do is at the very top outside of public class main, we're going to have to type in import java.util.scanner. So you might be wondering what import does. So Java has a few things that are built in, right? So system.out.println, this is a built-in function of Java and you can use it to print stuff out. But there are a ton of other tools, like Scanner, for example, that Java doesn't have built in order to save space. So if we want to use it, we have to tell Java, hey, we're going to be using Scanner here. So that's what import does. We can also do import java.util.star, which would import everything. But since for this lesson we're only going to be using Scanner, let's just do java.util.scanner. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a new instance of a Scanner object. So just go ahead and follow along. Let's delete this code. And we're going to say scanner scan equals new scanner system dot in and end with a semicolon. So what did we just do here? The way we created a scanner is kind of like creating a new variable, right? First we have the type, so it's going to be a scanner. Then we have the variable name. And with the variable name, remember, it can be anything you want as long as it fits the Java naming parameters. So we could call this scanner dog, right? We could call it scanner input. It doesn't matter as long as you remember this, right? Since it's a placeholder, it's just going to be the name. So let's just call it scan. Now we're saying we're going to create a new scanner, and inside these parentheses, we have to put system.in. So what does system.in mean? This means that it's going to scan whatever the user types in. The reason why we have to specify this is because we could do new file, right? New file and then put in the file name. And that's because scanner can read from files, right? Documents, or user input. But in today's lesson, we're just going to do user input. So let's just get rid of that and put system.in. All right. So the way a scanner works, you can think of it kind of like a camera, right? So a camera has a few functions, like for example, take a picture or maybe record. So scanner works the same way, except the way that we tell it to do these things are different. So the first thing we're going to do is scan.next. Now remember, this part, this is a variable name, right? It's a placeholder for the scanner that we just created. If we name this input, we would do input.next, right? If we name this dog, right, we would do dog.next. So let's just go ahead, Alex, scan, right? We're gonna do scan.next. So let's run this and see what happens. So here you see the thing is flashing, right? It's waiting for the users to type something in. So let's just say hello, and nothing happened, right? And that's because we didn't tell the computer to do anything, right? It just asks for the user input. It doesn't store it. It doesn't print it out, right? It's just asking for the user input. So now let's do something with the user input. So let's create a new variable. We're going to call it string input, right? And then we're going to set it equal to scan.next. And we'll delete this line over here. So what this does is it creates a new variable called input. And what are we assigning to it, right? It's going to assign whatever the user types in. Earlier what we did was maybe we put a string, oops, and we said hello, right? And that means that every time you run it, input is going to be equal to whatever you put in here. However, since we want it to change depending on what the user types in, when we do scan.next, it will be different every time. So let's just see what the user types in for input. So let's just do system.out.print, print line, and then the variable name, right? Input. So let's go ahead and run it again. Right, it's waiting for the user to type something in. So let's just say hello. We run it and look what it printed out. Exactly what we typed in. Because input is going to be equal to scan.next, and scan.next takes in whatever the user types. So if we run it again, what do you want to say? Let's say hi, and we get back hi. So one more thing about scanner is that, like a camera, it has a couple of different functions. So let's just run this again and say, I like coding. Notice how when it prints back, it only printed out the first word. And that's because we're using this function scan.next. If we wanted to take in the whole line, we can do scan.next line. And let's run it. So let's type out a couple of words again. So I like coding, enter it, and it gives it back exactly. Right? Another thing that I can do is scan.next int. So now this is looking for a number. So let's run it again. Oops. And notice how this didn't work because we said string input, right? String is the variable type, and it's looking for an integer. So the thing about variables is you can't put a different type of variable when you're telling it it's a certain type. For example, if we did int number equals hello, this would not work because the variable type here is an integer, and the thing you're assigning it is a string, right? So in order to get this to work, let's change this to int. Right, so int input equals scan.next int, and let's run it. So let's give it a number. Let's just say 6, right? And it gives you 6 back. And one more thing. So since it's saying scan.next int, if you were to give it a string, right? So hello, it would not work because it's looking for an integer. So let's just do something a little bit more complicated. Let's say system.out.println, right? And then we're gonna have the computer ask the user something. So what is your name? Right? And it's gonna wait for the user to type something in. So string, let's just call it name equals scan.next, right? And then once it takes in the name, let's have it say something back. Maybe we can repeat it. So let's say system.out.println, oops, your name is, and then remember what we did last time with concatenation? We can put two strings right next to each other using the plus sign. So let's do your name is plus name. And then let's go ahead and run it. So what is your name? Right? Let's just say Bob. And press enter. After it takes in whatever the user types in, it's stored in name, and then it prints it out. Your name is Bob. Right? If we were to change our name to something else, what is your name? Let's say Lucas. Press enter. It says your name is Lucas because this variable changes depending on whatever you typed in. Alright, so that's all for this lesson. Today we learned about scanners, right? How do we create a scanner? What can a scanner do, right? Scan.next, scan.next line, oops, and scan.next int. There's a couple other ones, but we might go over it later. And then we just reviewed some stuff, right? System.out.println and concatenation. So next lesson, we'll be learning about if statements and booleans. Alright, see you guys.